I think seed oils is one of those things where you have a natural tolerance for them, and it's okay to eat in small quantities, but when you have too much of it, it can cause metabolic issues. So linoleic acid can interfere with insulin receptors. It forms toxic aldehyde products of breakdown that can negatively impact your metabolic health as well. So
welcome to the Pure Wellness Podcast, where we talk about what it takes to live a holistic lifestyle by making conscious, healthier choices. Our hope is that these discussions will inspire you to strengthen your daily practice to improve overall physical, mental, emotional, and social well-being. Pure Wellness Podcast provides information solely for educational purposes and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I'm your host, Johanna Altman, founder of One Body Medicine, avid health enthusiast, and mother of 3. Join me and industry professionals as we explore human potential in the pursuit of pure wellness. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have Dr. Allen back. Dr. Allen, hi.
always a pleasure.
Great. Thanks for coming today. And I wanted to talk today about something that's been a little bit controversial in our food supply, and that's seed oils. I've been pretty obsessed with checking my labels and asking my restaurant what kind of oils they cook with. And so I wanted to bring more information out to our viewers about seed oils, what they are, why they're possibly harmful for us, and what we can do to slowly get away from them.
Great. I think this has been something that's really gaining public attention recently.
Absolutely. So I came across this documentary not too long ago called Fed a Lie. And it was very interesting because I would hear seed oils and not really understand or know what seed oils were, because I've cooked with sesame oil, avocado oil, EVOO, all kinds of different oils. And what I came to realize is maybe 8 out of the 10 oils I normally cook with are seed oils. And I was pretty shocked, to be honest.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah. And when I started hearing that seed oils weren't good, I didn't understand why. And in watching this documentary, which I highly recommend you watch, or our viewers.
I haven't seen it yet, but I'll check it out.
Yeah, for sure. It talks about the history of seed oil. And what I didn't know is that seed oils have been around more for industrial purposes. So in the early 1900s, during the Industrial Revolution, cottonseed oil was actually used as a lubricant for equipment. Did you know that?
Yeah.
And now we're eating it.
So how did that happen?
So what I've learned is that, apparently we used to use oil from whales. And when we didn't have that anymore, there was a need to find fat and oil from other sources. And again, this is all in the documentary. And cottonseed oil was a substitute to fill that need for more oil. And that lubricant was used during the Industrial Revolution. However, years after that, Procter & Gamble came into the picture. They invested about $1.7 million into seed oil studies and decided they were going to try to use seed oil and make it into a food product. And that food product was Crisco vegetable shortening, which I grew up eating my whole life. And I had no idea.
Yeah, Crisco is actually a shortened word for crystallized cottonseed oil. That's where the name comes from.
I had no idea.
And that was really popular back in the day. They made all sorts of health claims about that, which we now know to be not true. Yeah. But seed oils have still evolved a lot over the course of history, including the way that they extract it. So in traditional cultures, they would extract oil from some seeds, like sesame oil, for example, would be one. And the way they would do that before technology was they would cold press it.
Okay.
So when you cold press something, it actually extracts not just the oil, but some of the other things that are in the seed, like antioxidants that keep it from going rancid. And it doesn't have any other additives when you do it that way. But as people developed more industrial ways of doing it, they've realized that they could get more oil out of the seed by running it through solvents like hexane.
And what's hexane?
Hexane is a hydrocarbon. It's actually toxic in large quantities. It's a neurotoxin.
Oh, that's not good.
But when you press a seed, you can only get about 20% of the oil out of it. And in order to get the rest, you have to have some kind of solvent to chemically extract it. Okay. And in order to do that, they have to take the hexane back out somehow. And they do that by either distilling it or letting it evaporate. But you think about mixing two liquids together with one of them being a poison and saying that, oh, I'm going to let all of it out by evaporation or distillation. And why don't you drink the rest? How does that sound to you?
No, absolutely not. So hexane is what's used to further extract seed oil from the seeds. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. And even though they do get most of it out, some of it will remain behind.
Oh, for sure. And then I also learned and I watched that they have to heat the seeds to up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit in the process. And by doing that, that next step is to actually deodorize the seed oils, because the stench and the smell of the seed oils, once it goes through this highly industrialized process, is no longer appealing. So this is probably the most highly processed food that we have in our food supply. Would you agree?
They have to bleach it because the color is cloudy after they do that.
That's
they have to deodorize it, so they run it through a bunch of different filters and processes to do that, hoping to get some of that out. But in the process, some of that oil will get oxidized and it'll be damaged.
Yeah, that's right. There were some studies there that I wanted to share that, for example, in a 20-year span, of studying Americans, no increase in calories with moderate increase in exercise, obesity rates went from 30% to 42%. Something's got to be different in our environment. What is that? We're eating something that's not natural. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. And I also saw that an average American consumes 3 to 5 tablespoons of seed oils in today's diet. It's in plant milks, it's in bread, dressings, muffins, literally everything. Everything in your supermarket that's in the middle section contains seed oils. And they use it because seed oils help these products become more shelf stable, correct?
Yeah, and first of all, I want to go over kind of why people think seed oil might be bad for you.
Okay, let's do it.
So seed oils, they might come from different sources. Some of them might be sunflower or safflower, canola, soybean oil. Those are all considered seed oils. Sometimes they're called vegetable oils. And even though they are all from different sources, what they have in common is that they have a high content of a fatty acid that is polyunsaturated. Polyunsaturated meaning that there are multiple double bonds, and those are more chemically unstable and prone to oxidation.
And we don't want that. Why?
So when you take the fat into your body, it gets incorporated into your cell membranes. Not to say that unsaturated fatty acids are all bad. You do need them to some degree to maintain your cell membrane fluidity. And so the seed oils do have a role in our diet. They're considered, like linoleic acid, which is the principal seed oil, is considered an essential fatty acid because your body doesn't make it and you need it in limited quantities.
Okay.
It's just about the balance of the fats that you're taking in. So the modern diet, if you look at all the sources of fat, the ratio of omega-6 fatty acids, which are the kinds found in seed oils, to the other type called omega-3 fatty acids, is much higher than it's traditionally been. We think probably around 15-1, omega-6 to omega-3. Whereas in a traditional diet, you might see something closer to 4 to 1. So not so much of a high ratio.
Mm-hmm. Now, why do you want those ratios? The ratio of unsaturated fat or omega-6 and omega-3.
Yeah, omega-3 is also polyunsaturated, but it's about the location of the double bonds.
I see.
And the omega-6 fatty acids, they tend to be metabolized into a chemical called arachidonic acid, which is a precursor to the inflammatory cascade and inflammatory mediators.
I see.
That's important because if you have an injury or if you have something that your immune system needs to respond to or heal, you do need an inflammatory signaling. But if you have too much of that and it's not balanced by the anti-inflammatory omega-3 pathway, then you can get into some problems.
I see. So you want that ratio of omega-6, omega-3 to be closer to each other, which means, again, seed oil products are pretty much in most of our food supply that's processed. It's in all processed foods. Mm-hmm. Can I say that?
Yeah, it's in most processed foods.
Yeah, and that would make sense why the ratio is 15 to 1 of these omega-6 acids, fatty acids, right? And so as we're ingesting this in higher quantities, it's creating a higher inflammatory response in our body. It's creating more inflammation, right?
It's thought to contribute to kind of like this chronic baseline inflammation that you see. And then when it gets incorporated into your cells, it can damage cell membranes when they get oxidized. It can make your mitochondria inside of your cell is also made of a lipid membrane. So if those fats are incorporated into your mitochondrial membrane, it can impact your metabolic health as well.
So I want to go back and talk about Crisco.
Okay.
Did you eat Crisco growing up?
All the time.
I know, me too. And the way it was marketed and everything with that sweet lady on the jar made me think it was healthy for some reason. But learning now that Procter & Gamble had their hands in it and that there was a huge influx of funding. At the time was $1.7 million, which would be $20 million today, would make me understand how it got into our food supply chain and the incentive. So, now looking back, right, and that being now also that they're cost effective, right? These seed oils are cheaper, they're more affordable versus extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil or even beef tallow now, which used to be so easily accessible and affordable, is like $20 a jar.
Yeah, so expensive.
It's insane. And I wanted to also throw out that there was a study on that film in 1956. It was on corn oil by G.A. Rose. And what the study did was it fed 19 teaspoons of corn oil a day to subjects and followed them for 3 years compared to a controlled group. And at the end of 2 years, they had to stop because they had a ton of fatalities they had a ton of fatalities with the people that were participating in the study. And the conclusion was that we cannot recommend vegetable oils to fight heart disease, and they are possibly harmful. I mean, that seems pretty harmful.
Yeah,
me.
I think there's a lot of confusion out there because the AHA actually recommends seed oils essentially as a way to improve heart health. To be fair, I think the evidence is mixed out there because there are some studies that show that adding seed oils to your diet instead of saturated fats lowers your LDL cholesterol. But I think those are very nuanced things with a lot of things that can confound the data. So it's interesting, in fact, that they add seed oils to animal feed, for example, to help them get fatter. If you look at what they do with corn-finished cattle, even if they've been eating pasture to make the animals gain weight, they put them on a feedlot to eat corn, which has been fortified with seed oils, and that helps them gain weight. Now, conversely, they the agricultural industry had tried to fatten animals using healthier fats like coconut oil, and they've actually found that it makes the animals lose weight instead, which is why they don't do that.
Well, we should be using that then for the American standard diet because so many people are obese. Right? No, really. Like we should be eating more like coconut oil and healthier oils. Don't you think?
That's one reason why I try to avoid seed oils in my diet. I think seed oils is one of those things where you have a natural tolerance for them, and it's okay to eat in small quantities, but when you have too much of it, it can cause metabolic issues. So linoleic acid can interfere with insulin receptors. It forms toxic aldehyde products of breakdown that can negatively impact your metabolic health as well. So,
well, I learned about seed oils from you initially. And when I said to you, what is that? What are you doing? Why are you avoiding it? I kind of went down my own rabbit hole to do more research. And we also, my husband and I, and with my children, I'm trying to stay away from seed oils, which is very difficult because when I read the labels, almost every food that is in a box has seed oils. There are a few brands that I like. I like Siete brand. Thrive Market's pretty good. They have a lot of snacks that might have 2 ingredients, 3 ingredients. Mm-hmm. So we try to go for that and that are cooked in avocado oil or coconut oil. And one thing that's been pretty difficult in trying to eliminate seed oils for us as a family is eating out. There's an app that you turned me on to called Seed Oil Scout that I love.
Yeah.
It's really good. And what I love about it is I can go on there and there are consumers like you and I that will go to various restaurants and basically ask the restaurant what kind of oils they cook in. Are they grass finished, grass fed, beef tallow, things like that. And it's like a community app where we can all help each other. But the sad thing is about 90% of the restaurants that are out there don't cook with the good oils. They're cooking with seed oils. So it makes it very difficult to be healthy.
I think it's one of those things that in modern society is really hard to avoid completely. Yeah. You can always try to request the restaurant to cook it in a specific type of oil for you, or
we do.
Yeah, you can just try to eat something that is low fat in general or has some animal fat in it to kind of reduce the ratio of your intake. So those are different ways you can do that. Seed oil hides in a lot of places,
Like where?
So one surprising thing is that certain animals like chickens and pigs that are fed a high grain diet actually store linoleic acid in their fatty tissues. So you might think you're eating animal fat, but bacon might be up to 20% seed oil, actually.
It's because they're feeding that to the animals as well?
They're feeding it to the animals.
Oh, wow.
I think beef actually has
That's
the
crazy.
lowest proportion, even though if they're fed grain, they tend to make, fats that don't have that type of oil in it.
Now, what if we were to get now, I had spoken to you about this. Our family is ordering pretty much all of our protein, our meat from a regenerative farm. So for viewers out there that are watching this, if they're concerned that maybe they're eating something, or they're buying their meats from a restaurant, not a restaurant, from a supermarket that's that has higher levels of seed oils, they could avoid that by going to other sources, correct?
Yeah, I think if you try to eat a balanced diet, and animals that eat a diet that's closest to their natural diet, meaning for chickens, if they're eating, an omnivore diet with bugs and vegetables, then they're going to have less seed oils that get stored in the form of their eggs and their meat. So regenerative farming, I'm all for that.
Yeah, I think that's one way that people can actually try to avoid having seed oils, but I didn't even know that.
Absolutely.
I also read that baby food and formula have seed oils. Is that true?
Yeah. And that's another one that's hard to avoid because some moms just can't breastfeed.
So what do they do?
If you look at the ingredients for major baby food brands, it's usually like the second or third ingredient on there is some kind of seed oil, like sunflower oil.
I mean, what do you think about that?
I'm not aware of a seed oil free alternative right now. So I think breastfeeding is definitely the best solution if you can. And if you can't, people have been tolerating infant formula, so it's not the end of the world. But
Yeah.
it's just another thing to think about.
That's crazy. But this is crazy.
Yeah.
They're being marketed as, I remember when my niece was a baby, the marketing for these baby formulas was that better than mother's milk. Do you remember that?
It's a common sense principle. It's to say that this milk that the mom makes that has been evolved through so many thousands of years is not as good as something that a major food company throws together.
I know. I agree.
Which is, I think the common sense principle really applies when you can ask yourself, people have been eating, butter and other fats like olive oils for thousands of years. And all of a sudden, are we going to say that the industrially processed seed oil is more heart healthy than these things?
Absolutely not. I think one of the things for maybe viewers who are trying to stay away from seed oils, a good rule of thumb would be to think of ancestral foods, right? Like if they're going to the supermarket, for example, we should stay on the outer layer of the supermarket where the vegetables, the fruits are, and try to limit what we buy in the inside part or inside aisles of the supermarket, right?
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb, is that the more processed your diet, the more seed oils is going to contain. They go hand in hand with all the other things that are bad for you, the simple carbs and starches. So any packaged food is going to have seed oils in it. It's also going to have the carbs and things that drive up your blood sugar. If you fried foods, that's probably the highest source in the standard American diet, because the fried things just soak it up,
So, and also eating out too, whenever there's a fried item, 90% of the time it's in canola oil or it's in vegetable oil. So be mindful of that as well. Is there anything else that we should discuss really about this?
Another thing that a lot of people are confused about is that we talk about seed oils being unstable and prone to oxidation.
Mm-hmm.
Yet
That's
some
right.
of the seed oils that are commonly on the market have really high smoke points, and they're made for high temperature frying. And I think that what people don't realize is that the smoke point is not the same thing as the oxidative potential of an oil. So a smoke point of something is generally regarded as when you visibly see smoke. And that happens because there are other things in the oil that burn. So for example, olive oil. If you have a really nice extra virgin olive oil that has all the other plant extracts from the fruit, it's going to have a low smoke point. And that's because there's other things in it. Butter, for example, also has a very low smoke point because it has milk solids in it. But that's different from how much of that oil gets oxidized.
I see.
If you look at ghee, which is a clarified butter, it's saturated at room temperature, so it's solid at room temperature, and it has a high smoke point because there's nothing in there that really burns. But you could take a different oil with a high smoke point, for example, grapeseed oil, and even though it's not smoking at 450 degrees, that oil is almost certainly being damaged by the heat.
I see. So what's more important for us also to focus on is the oxidation.
Yes.
Right? And but that's probably also why seed oils are so popular for frying, because we can get it up to those higher temperatures and it doesn't smoke.
Yeah, they're very purified and they don't typically smoke. So everything is usually fried in soybean oil or canola oil or things like that.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing with the baby food is really disturbing. I mean, I get the processed foods, but I in doing research for this podcast, I didn't even realize that salad dressing and things that I used to eat so much of before had seed oils. So now I'm checking the labels, I'm looking at everything, and I just think it's important to minimize. Even if people are going to eat seed oils, it's important to just limit their intake because it's still a very processed food.
Yeah. And when you do have a seed oil free diet, you can expect for it to take a while for all the seed oils that are stored in your body to clear out because it has a pretty long half-life. And you might not notice a huge difference right away if you switch. Everyone kind of responds a little bit differently. I think seed oils are one of those things that creates potentially an incrementally negative effect on your health, but you have to take into account all the other environmental toxins and negative health things that come with daily living.
Yeah. Mycotoxins.
Microplastics.
I think the message for this podcast and, everything that we do is really just try to minimize because, again, it's okay to have a little bit of the seed oil because we probably can't eliminate it 100% just by way of lifestyle. But as long as we minimize and we're mindful, we should be okay. And that goes with everything else.
I think that's a great take-home message.
Yeah. Okay, well, I don't have anything else to say, Doctor. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, thanks for having me on.
Okay, thank you so much. This podcast is sponsored and brought to you by One Body Medicine. You can learn more by visiting onebodymedicine.com. That's the number 1, bodymedicine.com. You can also follow the show on social media under the handle Pure Wellness Pod. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.